Hello, everybody. It's James here. Story time with Dutch Mantell, episode 7. We're going to be asking questions to the Dirty Dutchman himself with that cigar. Are you ever going to smoke that cigar?
This one?
Mm.
Or is it? No, I never smoke them. The old Henny Youngman deal and the Groucho Marx deal. You rub me the wrong way, and I don't know how you rub me in. He always does this. But Henny Youngman, he never, I don't know, people may not know who Henny Youngman is, but he was an old vaudeville performer and always had a cigar, but he never lit it. In 50 or 60 years of performing, he never lit the cigar. But that was his trademark.
How long do you get with a cigar before your saliva just sort of disintegrates the end and you have to go on a new one?
Well, that's an odd way to describe it. It's a horrible way to describe it. I have smoked cigars, but cigars, you got to watch a cigar because it will make you deathly sick. Some people, because if it's a bad cigar and you're really taking that tobacco in, it'll knock your head off. This is a good cigar because you can smell it. If it smells mild, it is mild. So, and I'm not what I call a cigar aficionado, but I guess that's the word. But I do like to smoke a cigar every now and then.
Oh, I was going to say.
I don't smoke cigarettes.
I was going to ask if you were like Bill Clinton, you didn't inhale.
No, I never did. What a lying bastard. He lied. Bill was Bill.
Still, he kept the newspapers busy for a good few years. We are going to have an hour's worth of questions for Dutch submitted.
I got a lot to say today, so don't go away.
No, okay, right then. Well, you've got a lot to say. I've got a lot of questions for you, and the first one is from Chocolate Homunculus. A few months ago, a video called Conan on Real Life Heat with Dutch Mantell popped up on YouTube. Halfway through, Conan vaguely starts talking about a lawsuit. According to Conan, I've said on a previous podcast, or he said on a previous podcast, that Conan is the only guy who... I should reread this. I'll edit this out. Dutch is the only guy that ever sued me and apologised to me. He called me and apologised. He goes, "What did you sue me for?" And he goes, "I don't know. I had to sue you." Yeah, bleep. You know I sued you and everybody in that bleep company, so don't act dumb. Then he says something about racism. Hard to follow, but that was basically the crux. And I think I actually transcribed that word for word. So if you can translate that for us.
Wait a minute. First of all, I didn't sue Conan. Conan sued me inside a wrestling company. Let me lay the context of this down. I was in TNA, and Conan was there working with Road Dogg and Ron Killings, and they had some kind of a name, but we put them together as a threesome, and then that broke up, as it usually does. And we were syndicating our show, and they assigned Conan to join the Spanish commentary team. So he was on commentary. So, and then it got to a point, then Conan started having troubles with his hip, or health troubles, and he had to have this surgery and this operation. And then he was into it with Dixie Carter about who was going to pay for it. He said he got hurt in our ring, and I never understood it. So if I'm not involved in it, I'm going to stay outside that circle. And I did as long as I could, till I finally got handed papers one day, and Conan wasn't there. I got handed papers, and it was lawsuit papers, and he was suing me, like as a part of a group. And he sued TNA, and he sued Dixie Carter, and he sued Jeff Jarrett, and he sued Terry Taylor. For what reason, I have no idea, because he was the head of talent relations in TNA, and he sued me. And I'm wondering, what is he suing me for? So, and then they called me when they said, "Well, we need to take a deposition with you." I said, "About what?" He said, "About the Conan lawsuit." I said, "I don't know what he's suing for." I really didn't. So I go down there and I sit down with 2 or 3 lawyers, and it's big, long table. It's a conference table. And I sat on one end and they sat on the other. And I went, well, this is kind of telling. So they asked me about all these questions about Conan. And I said, what is he suing me for? He said, he's suing you for some stuff. I don't know what. But he said, I badmouthed him and I had give him drugs. I'd sold him drugs. I said, what? They said, yeah, you sold him pain pills. I said, what? Now, let me make this clear. You know, after you bump around this ring for 20, 25 years, you have aches and pains. I've had knee surgery. I need back surgery now. So in order to avoid that, I take pain pills, and they're prescribed by a doctor because pain pills are there for a reason. So he said he was dying one day and he wanted a pain pill from me. I said, I don't have a pain pill. He said, yeah, I know you do. I said, no, I don't. So he said to get him in the lawsuit, he had to say that I had sold him pills on the premises of Universal, which is against rules, I'm sure. So that's what they wanted to know. Of course, I denied it because it wasn't true. And then he sued me for not racism so much, but something similar to that, which I denied also. So it went through the system, and I think they settled out of court. He wanted $500,000. That's what he sued for. I don't know what he got. I don't think he got much. He may have got 50, I guess. I don't know what he got, but it's more than what he had. So one day, and he says in that thing that you just read there, that he called me up and apologized. He did that. He said that I called him up and apologized. I didn't call him up and apologize. He called me and he went, yo, Dutch, yo, man. Yeah, I always liked you, man. You was always cool with me, man. Yo. And he said, I had to sue you, man, because I guess he had to sue me to make it look real, I guess. So, but since that day, I've never talked to him. He's sent me messages that he would like to interview me on his podcast. I have nothing to say to him because if another wrestler will sue you over some made up stuff just to make part of his suit more believable, then I have nothing to talk to him about. And I've never talked to him since. I never got it why he did it, and I had something to say. It kind of briefly escaped me, but oh yeah, when I was doing the deposition, they asked me, did I take pain pills? I said, yeah. They said, how long you been taking them? I said, a long time. And they said, why? I said, I got pain. That's why. And it's prescribed by a doctor. So it's not illegal. Now it would have been illegal for me to sell him pills, but I'm not going to do that. And they asked me, he says, have you ever taken steroids? Which was an odd question because steroids had never come up before, not in the suit or anything. And I told the lawyer, I said, yeah, I've taken steroids before. And I says, but nobody ever told me that you got to go to the gym and actually work out with them too. I said, hell, when I took them, I just got fat. So they started laughing, but I never heard anything about it. And, you know, Conan can do what he wants to do, and about the racism, I'm about fed up to hear with any claims of racism at all. Because, you know, it's okay for Conan to come south and call everybody rednecks and damn half-breeds and all this stuff. And he's talking about white people. And I don't know what he said I did against him because I worked in Puerto Rico for like 8 years. You know, they spoke Spanish, and I have no ill racial feelings toward Puerto Ricans or Mexicans or anybody else for that matter, because I have to work with these people. And they're people to me. I don't look at that. I don't look at color or anything because Ron Killings, I love him to death. These guys. Do I have a lot of black friends? No, because I have no reason to be around them, but I have had, and I've invited them to my house and everything. There's no different. But this racism deal, that's when it was new and you could cause that. But I never did that. And this is another thing. They give me that Zeb Colter thing in WWE because of the same thing. I'm down south. So immediately people up north, if you're from down south, they immediately assume two things. You're racist and you're screwing your sister. That's exactly what they say automatically without knowing anything about you. And when this Southern drawl comes out, you're saddled with all those, preconceived notions about Southern people. And that's why he brought that up.
With Conan, do you know what he specifically sued anybody else for other than you?
Well, he was suing them because he said he got hurt in the ring. And we made him go to the ring and work when he was hurt, which I immediately denied. I said, actually, I would pay him not to go to the ring to work because his work's horrible. I mean, he had a good gimmick and he was over in Mexico at one time, really, really over, a really big star. And they liked him down there. And of course, that was because, before he was hurt. But Conan is good in the ring. I'm not taking anything from him. But as far as trying to hold him back, never tried to hold him back. I wish he could have sold 10,000 tickets. We'd have booked him every day.
We will move on then. I'm a freaking historian. Would love to hear more about Memphis, your program with Bill Dundee, the heel turn, the scaffold match, which we brought up in the last episode briefly, the bullwhip match, and if they were trying to turn Bill in order to get him ready for Lawler, or they were just working, or you and Bill were just working a program.
Well, you'd have to put it in a time frame. And, in Memphis, you'd be a good guy for a while, then they would turn you, and then you'd be a bad guy. And then the people would turn you back usually. But the angle between me and Bill, we started it with, they jumped on Jeff Jarrett. It was Bill Dundee and Buddy Landale. This was my last time I was there. This is about mid 80s, mid 50s. What the hell am I thinking? The mid 80s. And they beat up Jeff, and then they beat up Jerry Jarrett, and he got such sympathy because Jerry Jarrett had an eye problem. He was going blind at the time if he hadn't had surgery. Jeff was just a referee, and so I jumped in to help him, and I did an interview. And Lawler had been suspended. He had lost a loser leave town match, so he'd been gone about 3 weeks. And, Lawler built it all around himself, basically. So when Lawler wasn't on the card in something hot, he was going to take time to get the other things warmed up, even though we had worked angles before Lawler left, but never to the degree that Lawler would work his angle. He'd have the Funks, or he'd have Bockwinkel, or he'd have Austin Idol, or he'd be into something hot. So I went to take up for Jeff on TV one day, and they said, yeah, get any partner I wanted, and they would just destroy us. And so I said, well, and I went out and we brought a phone out. I said, I got one guy I can call. He's the only guy I know can withstand these guys with me. And I said, Jerry Lawler. And when I said Lawler, the place popped, because they knew he was suspended and he'd lost a loser leave town match. And I called him up, and then Lawler said, yeah, I'm watching the show now. And he said, yeah, I'll come down. I'll be your partner Monday night. And Dundee, this, that, and the other, and Landale. And we started, sold out. And just off that one little angle, because I think Dundee and Landale had a little bit of heat, unbeknownst to, heat used to be something you draw money with. WWE, they don't know heat now. Actually, AEW, they don't know heat. It's just a totally different concept in today's wrestling world. And I remember we did a deal at the end of it, and I forgot what happened, but we had a Texas death match. That went 26 falls. And we actually set a record for the number of falls in a match. And it took us an hour, I think, and 10 minutes to do it. And, falls don't have to be long. A fall could be 30 seconds, but you'd have to wait 30 seconds between the falls to recontinue. And we set a record with 26 falls. It wasn't scheduled to go 26 falls, but the beauty of Memphis is you could kind of change it in the middle of it. So we was only supposed to go like 7 falls, I think. And then 7 falls, like 15 minutes had gone by or something. So I think we got up. One of us got up. I think Landale got up or Bill got up. And Lana said, that's good. We'll just go some more. So we went 10 falls, then 11, then 12. I says, then I slid over to Lawler in the corner and went, how long are we going to go in this son of a gun? He says, I don't know. Till we get tired, I guess. You tired? I said, no, because we were having a good time. The fans were eating it up. So then we went 12. Then we went 14, then 16. Now the fans settled in and said, man, this is different. They've never seen a match go this long. Then we did 17, then 18. And when we hit 20, it's almost like the crowd was reinvigorated again. How long are these guys going to go? And we end up going 26 falls and setting a record. I have a tape of it somewhere, and you can actually go on YouTube. I think you can see it. But we had a sold out crowd again, and one of the most enjoyable matches I ever had. And I've had people doubt me. They said, no, they had a match there one time and went 43 falls. I went, bull crap. I said, Memphis didn't have a match with 43 falls. Hell, the guys that Memphis would hire at the time, hell, they couldn't stand up for 43 falls, let alone work 43 falls. But we ended up going 26 falls, me and Jerry Lawler against Bill Dundee and Buddy Landell.
This fella also mentioned a scaffold match and alluded to it before, that you brought up the scaffold match in the last episode, and you just sort of found yourself up there. You didn't really have any sort of warning beforehand.
Well, it was a match that that had its start in Memphis. It either had its start in Memphis or Amarillo with the Funks. And it sounds like something Terry Funk would do. But I think it's had its start. I think Jerry Jarrett invented that match in Memphis. And why he invented it, I think they were like working in his house one day and he saw a scaffold. And that's how he got the idea. Hey, let's have a scaffold match, put 2 guys on a scaffold, and the rules are simple. The first guy that falls off or jumps off, or he loses. So they booked me in the scaffold match, which I had no idea that I was going to be in. I showed up at TV Saturday, and they announced a scaffold match. They didn't ask me. They just more or less booked it. And then I was with Dundee, and Dundee said, hey, mate, it's fine. It's fine. I said, it might be fun to you, but I'm afraid of heights, to tell you the truth. I don't like heights. I don't like being up there on the scaffold, especially with somebody like Dundee, who's, when we got on the scaffold, he would jump up and down on it. And I was almost falling off. I mean, for a shoot, I could have fell off that thing. So we did it. Of course, I lost, because I had to come off the scaffold first. And then back in Memphis, the way we would do the match on Monday, and then the tape would be bicycle to the other stations, but the tape would always be 1 week late. So what was the main event in Memphis on a Monday night would be the main event in Louisville a week later, and then Evansville, and then Nashville. So that's how we bicycled. So I had 3 or 4 more, maybe more, scaffold matches that I had to do, which I hated. But we got up there, we did it, and it was obvious I was scared. So, and Cornette, that's how he messed his knee up. He had to come off the scaffold in the Omni on a big show, and he jammed his knee, and it never was right again. So,
without using the wrestler's hyperbole with heights, how high was the scaffold off from the ring?
Oh, from the floor of the ring?
Well, I'm assuming you landed on the ring.
It was probably 12 feet, 14 feet, which is pretty high. When I got on the scaffold in the Mid-South Coliseum, I'm up there and I just look across and I'm looking almost in the top deck. I went, damn. And I don't know about you, but when I look down, I don't see feet. I just see a drop. That's all I see, knowing that I'm going to have to make that journey within the next 10 minutes. It's like saying, here's an electric wire, and here's your hand. Shock yourself. Wait a minute. You know you're going to have to do it. Yeah. But I did it like a good trooper. Now, I did it. I don't know how good the match was. I didn't care, really. You remember last week I was talking about sandbagging?
Yes.
I did a lot of sandbagging in that match. I was hanging on to that scaffold with dear life. And he was beating me up, and I was hanging on to it. And I was legitimately afraid on that scaffold.
Since you said you did about 4 or 5 of these matches, did you work out the best way to land in the ring for minimal damage?
Well, one match I had in Evansville, which didn't have the budget that Memphis had. So they took just 2 ladders, 2 like step ladders, and they just put them across from each other and just hooked the scaffold between them. It was only like 6 feet. Mm-hmm. Hell, I've taken backdrops bigger than that. I was okay with that. But when it gets up above that, where you got to fall a second, that's what bothered me.
I bet it did as well. Next one, Geelong United. There's a story where you and the Midnight Express got your car stuck on the train tracks in 1990 in Boston. Apparently you were panicking trying to get out the car because you were having trouble with the seatbelt.
Well, this is a Jim Cornette rib, and it was a good one. Because we pulled on Bobby Eaton was driving. And Jim buzzed him earlier. He said, pull up on the track and act like the car won't crank. Act like it went dead or something, and you can't get it cranked, and it can't go. And, hold your foot on the brake and put it in drive. It won't go. And a train is coming. So we pull up there, and Dennis Condra and me was in the back seat. I'm reading the paper. I'm not paying attention. And then all of a sudden, then Jimmy says, come on, Bobby, let's go. And I look, that way is okay. I look this way, there's a train coming. Big old flash light on it, and it's coming. It's hauling ass down through there. And I said, I'm trying to get out, but I can't get out, and I can't get it unhooked. Then they locked the door. Then I finally did get it unhooked, and I can't get out. Come on. It really legitimately scared the crap out of me. And then finally, he just let his foot off the brake and pulled it down in drive, and we just casually drove off. And we had to stop because Cornette was having a conniption fit. He was laughing so hard. Bobby was laughing. Dennis was laughing. They were all in on it. I just happened to be in the car. I didn't think it was too funny. It's kind of funny now, and Jimmy has always remembered that. But it was a funny spot, but they did get me on that one.
Just to confirm, this guy says it's 1990, but it was Dennis, not Stan, in the car.
It was who? It was Dennis.
Yeah,
it was Stan. I think it was Stan.
Yeah. Okay, We'll move on then. Jonathan Baum, Dirty Dutch. I got a question. Who was the hardest person to work with in the back? You've worked with Dixie Carter, John Laurinaitis, Kevin Dunn, Vince Russo, etc.
Well, I haven't worked a lot with Kevin Dunn. I heard he was. I never heard any stories about Kevin Dunn. Hard to work with because he's more the truck guy. He's more the production guy, and I don't know what he would be hard to work with because he just says, "Hey, we just need this," and I don't think there's a problem with that. Dixie didn't know enough to be hard to work with. She would probably do what you said to do. Who was the others?
John Laurinaitis, Vince Russo, or it could be anyone from your illustrious 50-year career.
Well, I've met a lot of guys hard to work with, but they weren't stars. I met one guy, I forgot his name now, but he didn't want to do anything. I met one guy one day, and he was fell over. We were just in a little show, and I told him we're going to do this and this and this and this, and You know, he'd make a big comeback, and then I'd cut him off. And I said, when I go to slam you, just small package me. He went, oh, I can't do that. I says, why? He says, because I got to get my comeback in. I said, you just got it in. He said, well, that makes me look weak. I said, brother, please. There's 200 people sitting out there. It's not like this Memphis or the Omni in Atlanta or Madison Square Garden. Just do the finish. He didn't want to he was beating me and didn't want to beat me with a small package. He wanted to beat me with some finish or something. So then, you know what I said? I says, well, you either, hang on a second.
Do I pause? Nope, we're good.
Vince. Oh. Vince is calling me.
Deposition.
I told him, I said, you either get the small package or you're not getting it. That's it. And he did it, but he didn't want to. But that guy, I think that was his last territory, and I could see why. You're offering to put the guy over, and he didn't even like the finish of being going over. So imagine a finish that you want to beat him. He would really scream and holler about that, but I don't think he ever went. I think that Memphis was his last territory that I ever heard of.
I'll ask the question slightly differently then. As far as you as the wrestler and somebody else as the booker or owner of a territory, who was most difficult to work for?
Bill Watts, probably. Bill Watts was a perfectionist, kind of. And I've seen him pitch bitches in he was a Christian guy. And all of a sudden, all his Christian faith would go out the window when he'd get mad. It was GD this and GD that and F this and that. And he could pitch a hell of a bitch now. On the scale of 1 to 10, he'd go a 9, But if you did it right, he was the first one to praise you. I never had a lot of trouble with guys not cooperating really, but there was a lot of guys who, I heard the Ultimate Warrior was bad. Sting was a little difficult. Probably Lex Luger was the worst, because I was on WrestleMania 10.
11. We've actually covered this as well.
I remember I tell you about the finish.
Yes. Didn't you argue for like 2 hours about the finish? And then you just put your hand up and said, why don't we just
Lex
do this?
kept saying, I don't think, he'd talk about himself in third person. He'd say, I don't think Lex would do that. I wanted to reach over and just open hand slap him at one time. I said, well, what would Lex do if he just got the shit slapped out of him? Then I'd found out what he'd do. So finally, and then I called, guys, why don't we do this? A little heat, bam, da, bam, da, bam, bam, bam. That's how you do it. And whatever you guys want to do. And then I said at the end, just hook the small package, 1, 2, 3, and let's go. And Lex says, hey, that sounds good. That sounds good. Hell, we could have done that 2.5 hours earlier, but they wanted to get this in and get this in. I had to remind them one time, guys, not one person bought this pay-per-view or bought a ticket to come here tonight to see this match. All we want to do is give them a good, solid match and go. What difference does it make? And it didn't make a bit of difference, but Lex, have you seen Lex lately?
Yes, I have.
Oh, he looks terrible. I mean, I always got along with him, but he was very narcissistic. I don't think he's that way now, but he was always, you could tell by looking at him that the way he was. One night he didn't even want to work with me, and I forgot my partner. Bobby Jaggers, when we were the Kansas Jayhawks. He didn't even want to work a match between, it was me and Bobby against Luger and Tully Blanchard. He didn't even want to work the match because he didn't think that we were worthy of being in the same ring as him. And I'm thinking, really? See, I didn't know that before the match. If I'd have known that before the match, we're talking about sandbagging.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you get sandbagged. Because if you think you're not worthy, I'll make you look like less worthy than we are in your eyes. But I didn't know about it. But Tully, to his credit, he said, Lex, just stay out of the ring and let me show you how to have a match. And we had a hell of a match with him till he got in. And then it was just, it went up.
Plenty more Lex Luger stories coming up, hopefully, in the coming weeks when we're doing story time with Dutch. Next question, Red Auerbach. Was there a shoot where Dutch said something like, I enjoyed the business better when the wrestlers were in the locker room and the marks were in the stands? I thought I remembered that, but I could never find the clip. So do you remember saying that, and what was that in reference to?
I used to say it all the time, especially in a dressing room with a guy, and because he would act like a fan. I'd say, how much was your ticket tonight? What? I said, you bought a ticket to come in here, didn't you? Because you damn sure don't belong in this dressing room. But they would look at it like they were just, they're marks for themselves. You've seen people like that. They think they're over more than they are.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it would take a veteran to smart some of these guys up. Because I remember when I went in a ring one time, I went to give a guy a bill, but I did it wrong. Because a bill, you're supposed to take your whole arm and throw the guy. It's like a running hip toss, really. But I put my hand like this. And that's the way they still do it in NXT. They still do that. That's the worst way to take it. But I tried to do this old timer. I think his name was Pedro Godoy, I think. And the next thing I know was he slapped the living crap out of me right on my ear. And he said, don't you ever try to do that again. Well, he had my attention then. So we went back to the dressing room, and I wasn't mad at him because he didn't do it just for, he did it to teach me. He did it in a rougher fashion, but he had to do something, I guess. And he told me, he said, I didn't mean to do that. He said, but kid, you don't do it like this. I said, I can take it, but I get hurt because I'll go up and I'll come down right on my hip because I can't extend. I can't stretch my body out. And he told me, if you do it again, he said, you'll get 2 slaps. And guess what? I never did it again.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me a lesson because sometimes it takes a little whack from the big papa dog out there for the little pups to get in line. And I got in line that day.
With the saying, I enjoyed the business better when the wrestlers were in the locker room and the marks were in the stands. Now, is this something related to the fans think we're not really hurting each other, but now we are? That kind of thing?
No, it's actually intended for the dressing room. Because I've been in the dressing room and they look like they just showed up from a job and went right into the dressing room. They're like part-time wrestlers. How many times have you heard a guy call himself, I'm a pro wrestler? Well, he may have done it, but he's not really a pro wrestler. He is, but he's not. Some of these guys work for nothing, which is okay if they enjoy that. I don't mind that. But, don't bring that fan mentality into the dressing room because, this should be an art form, but sometimes it's not. Because those and a lot of people sitting out in the seats, they're trying to describe a match and, he should have done this. And a lot of times they're right. But when they get in the dressing room and they try that attitude, a lot of the veterans don't like that at all. And of course, a lot of them with a mouth. I mean, I would dress them down, but I'd do it like in a kidding way, but I would have the whole dressing room laughing at the guy. But not in a mean way, in a laughing way. But the guy would remember it and everybody in the dressing room would remember it too. Mm. But I did like the business better when the marks bought tickets and instead of putting on wrestling boots.
Mm-hmm. Next one, Jamie Dyke, hashtag Ask Dutch. I never encouraged this hashtag, but it just seems to have just happened. Ask Dutch. What was it like to team up with the Freebirds in Florida?
Well, it's according to what they were on. It's according to if they'd been drinking or if they'd have been taking some chemicals. Michael was okay. But what was the little one's name?
Buddy Roberts, is it?
Buddy Roberts, and the other one was named?
Terry Gordy.
Terry Gordy.
You're testing me now.
Well, no, well, I've been, like I said this 1,000 times. I've been hit on the head a couple hundred times. And you know, and I'm sure you have this too. When you see a guy and you can see his face, you know him, but you can't remember the name.
Yeah.
Terry, according to what kind of mood he was in too, because Terry would bring sometimes his private life with him to the dressing room. And sometimes he would bring that along with about 6-pack or 8 beers and a couple of pills. And it's according to what kind of mood they're in. But never had a problem with them. I mean, they always went out there and performed, but you didn't know what kind of mood they were going to be in.
I mean, they were famous and they were big stars when they were very, very young. What did they have that other people their age, or maybe most wrestlers of any age, never had that made them so popular?
Well, I call Michael a wrestling savant. You know what a savant is? Like an idiot savant. They may be stupid, but say an idiot savant may take the number like 2,415 multiplied by 3,607. Bang. They have the answer somehow, some way. That's a savant. Michael kind of had that with wrestling because he could sit back and, you know, kind of, and that's why he had such a long, and he's still in WWE. That's why he had such a long run there. And he would take a lot of the main event matches and he would listen to what they got, and then he would throw his ideas in there. And they usually come out with some pretty good matches. So Michael was really the leader of that group. He told all the rest of them what to do and when to do it, and how to do it. And Michael wasn't so gifted in the actual wrestling part of it, but he was very, very talented when it came to putting it together and producing it. He was just that was his gift for wrestling.
What was the most trouble that you ever at least heard they got themselves in?
Well, they were always in some kind of trouble, always. So, see what happened to Terry Gordy? Oh, he was in Texas one time, and this used to be allowed though. And some guy got up and kind of hit at him. That Gordy went right in. He went 3 to 4 to 5 rows deep. He got that guy. He beat the living crap out of him. And nobody else jumped in because Gordy was a big kid. He's about 300, 290, and could go. But I think later on, I forgot what happened to him. He got kind of, I don't know. He would just sit there like in a stupor. Did something happen to him?
I'm trying to think. Have an accident? I don't know if it was a car accident or maybe it was a drug overdose. I'm just looking this up now.
Yeah, he had something, and it changed his personality like forever.
Oh, it's gonna take me. No, it's gonna take me longer than.
Okay, but something happened to him, and you know, I call it that he had that 1,000-yard stare, because you knew he was there, but he wasn't there. He'd be sitting in the dressing room with you, and he'd just be staring off. And he was never, to me, he was never violent. I never heard him raise his voice. But I guess when he got mad at some of those fans around ringside, he took it out on them.
It says here, the signaturespot.com, during a flight to Japan in 1993 for one of his frequent all-Japan tours, Gordy would allegedly take roughly 50 pain pills, resulting in an overdose on the flight that left him in a coma. It would be 5 days before Gordy emerged, unfortunately with permanent brain damage. Yeah, well, that was later on, and I don't know if that's. I don't think that was after Florida. I think when I was with the Freebirds, but he was a great guy. I loved, and he was from, I think, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I think somewhere up in there. And he also had just a gift for the wrestling business, and put him with Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts. His job with him is to take all the bumps. That was his job. And the muscle was Terry and the brains was Michael. So they had a pretty good, and that Freebird set, the three of them, they've tried to copy that 100 times. They never could quite get the chemistry like the Freebirds had it.
Of course, going out to that song they went out to helped them a hell of a lot. That was the days you could use songs without permission. And we used the heck out of them too, till they got smart and said, no, you can't do it anymore.
I was going to say you couldn't use them without permission, but no one was chasing you for royalties at that time.
No, well, you weren't supposed to use them.
Yeah.
But they got used.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next one. Juggalo Math 17. Any stories about Evansville, Indiana, or JCW's Legend versus Icon show at the Gathering of the Juggalos, or insane clown posse stories in general?
Well, I went to a gathering one time, and I don't know what year it was, but it's in my book. I forgot which one it's in.
Well, I'll hold them both up. Sorry.
And the gathering, yep. I think it's in the green one, the Tales from a Dirt Road. I think it's in that one. And it was in, and I looked this up the other day. It was in some little bitty out of the way town in Kentucky, just right across the line from Tennessee. And I forgot, I saw the name the other day, but I can't remember now. But what they would do when they hold a festival, a concert, is they go out and they find just farmland, and they rent it from the farmer. It's private property, and they'll rent 20 acres or whatever they want to rent. And they'll go out there and they'll put all their stages up, and then they have a way to get into it. And that's where they put their ticket booth, and you can buy tickets in advance, of course. So when I went there, it was a midnight wrestling show, after midnight. So I got there and I couldn't find it. And I had Road Dogg was with me. I forgot, Doug Gilbert was with me. And we're in this limo. Some guy picked us up in a limo, an old limo. And we're driving and we couldn't find it. And I'm thinking, there's like 25,000 people there. I said, how in the hell can we ride around and not find 25,000 people? We just can't. So we finally found it somehow, went on there, and it was like 2:30 in the morning when my match came up. And I set a record that night. I had a match at 2:30. It was the earliest match I'd ever had and the latest match I'd ever had at the same time. So we go out there and they would turn all the lights out for some reason, and they would have spotlights, and the spotlights would hit the ring like every 4 seconds or 5 seconds. So you could just be wrestling around out there. And of course the people, they were all messed up anyway. They couldn't tell. I mean, everyone out there was high as a kite, either off some smoke or some heroin or some cocaine or whatever. That was the high. It's like 1,500 people there, and they were all high. And the odd part was that the dressing rooms were all straight. All the wrestlers were straight, and all the fans were high. So I'm walking around. Oh, I remember this. Road Dogg was late, but he got there right when his match went in the ring. And they were saying, get in the ring, get in the ring. You're up now. He didn't even put his stuff on. He went down to the ring, and I forgot they got a step like this that that the ring's sitting on. Road Dogg went out there, and he was already he had done the chemicals on the way up. And he stepped up there on it and tried to step off and forgot it was there, and almost he almost broke his ankle. I remember them taking him out there, and a minute later, they were carrying him back. And he said, oh God, I broke my leg. Oh, he was hilarious. But he really wasn't hurt bad, but according to him, and it did hurt. And that's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I went out there one time, it was the same night, and a guy had a table. And he was selling marijuana out in the open, I said, what is this? He said, oh man, you get this and this and this, and this is better than this and this. And he had prices on it and everything. He was open air market for drugs. They have one bridge there. It wasn't a bridge, it's like a more or less like a walkway built like a bridge. You could take actually a wagon or a tractor over. That's what it was built for. But it wasn't long. It was about, I don't know, 15 feet long. And that's when guys were walking besides cocaine, quaaludes, somas, heroin, grass. And you buy it, you just buy it out in the open because no cops could come on the property because it was private property. So I got to talking to one of the drug dealers. I said, because they check you when you come in, they check you for drugs. They checked us for drugs. And we didn't have any, so they gave us some. You know?
That's what I was going to ask as well.
Yeah, but we didn't have any. But they check it, and I'm wondering, how do they get these drugs in here? You know what the guy told me? He said they come in there about a month before. They dig a hole and put it in some kind of container where it won't get wet, and they bury it. But when they bury it, they put a homing device. They put it down in there. And when they come back a month later, of course, you check them, they have nothing. But when you come back, they just turn the device on, beep, 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 leads them right to it. They dig it up, then they start selling. And when they leave, they go and check them when they leave too. They just put it back. Of course, they probably didn't have any when they left anyway. But if they did, they would put it back in the ground and leave. Crazy.
These gathering of the Juggalos wrestling shows, a couple of things I sort of get from them is, one, the fans will throw anything at you, and two, the clowns will pay actually very well because they're big wrestling fans and they want to give you a good payday.
Yeah, no, they pay well. They do pay well. You remember Tequila? You remember the name?
The song, the drink, or?
No, the girl, the actual girl. Tequila is her name.
No, I don't.
Well, she was going to appear there the same time I was. Apparently, the Juggalos know her really well, and I think she may be one of them. But she badmouthed them like a day before. She said something bad about them. And, you know, if you say one thing bad about a Juggalo, you say it about them all. So they got mad at her. So right before we had some show, I was at the stage right next to us. This is when they had the lights on, but she was going out there, and they told her, the head Juggalo, the head clown, I forgot his name. He told her, don't go, because they said they were going to hurt her, and he knew they throw things. You don't have to go. Oh no, I'm going to go. He said, you don't have to go. We'll pay you. No, I'm going. So she went out there, and brother, they cut in on her. They was cussing her, throwing stuff. She had guards around her, and they were trying to knock it down. So then they says, we hate you. That's what they were shouting. We hate you. And then she's, oh, come along, Jugs. Come on. F you. And here comes some more stuff. Then they started shouting, show your tits. And so she said, well, if this will calm them down, she said, okay. She come up with her top. They looked for about 2 seconds. Then they says, we hate your tits. We hate your tits. And then they threw some more stuff and it hit her. And they drug her off the stage. One of the guys, security, he got cut really bad. Now they were bad at throwing things, but if the clowns, if they ask them not to do something, they'll kind of pay attention to the two clowns. But anybody else, they didn't care. See, the clowns are like misfits in real life. They're really misfits, but you put them all together and they fit. So, but for me, they all like wrestling, and they were very, very nice to me. They were very nice to all the wrestlers. You know, when they see one, they go, whoop, whoop. That was their greeting. Whoop, whoop. So if they said whoop, you're obligated to say whoop back, I guess. I don't know. And they would do that, and that meant you were okay. So they were They were a different kind of bunch, and they do it. Do they still do the gatherings? They're doing one in Charlotte, I think, this year.
I think they still do, yeah.
Yeah, I think, but they're fun to go to. I mean, you don't see any fights. Well, I didn't. You don't see any fights. You don't see anybody arguing. It's like all these misfits get together and they're all hugging each other and doing all this stuff. It's an odd festival to go to. And unless you know a little bit about the Juggalos history, you wouldn't understand it. It's kind of scary, really, because everybody's painted face. And if you go in there and you don't know what it is, you'd be alarmed, I would think.
Definitely. Definitely sounds like so. We'll do a couple more. We'll do a few more, and then we'll call it a day. Chris Tilliard, Dutch, and I'm going to edit the language out of this. What the heck was Tim Horner's issue in Smoky Mountain?
Well, in a nutshell, it's Jim Cornette. Because Cornette, I worked for Smoky Mountain almost 2 years. I didn't even know who the owner was. I didn't know Rick Rubin was the owner. Nobody ever told me. I never had a clue who the owner was. I thought Tim Horner was kind of one of the owners for a while. That's the way he acted. I mean, I would just go in there and do commentary and then I'd leave. But Cornette and Tim Horner, they had a disagreement and it lasted the whole time I was there. They never got along. And I think finally Horner he got up and left. I think Jimmy had an issue with Tim Horner's interviews. You ever hear his interviews?
If I did, they didn't resonate.
Oh yeah, he was just all over the place, and it was just they weren't good. And I think Jimmy would tell him, and they would get in an argument. But I don't know the basic cause of it, but it wasn't as bad as Vince Russo and Cornette, but it was kind of bad if you was around and they ran across each other.
Big Van Pappy asked Dutch, hashtag Ask Dutch, how was it working for the shoot promotion UWF in Japan, 1984? And
don't even ask me.
Oh, okay.
No, you can ask me.
Okay. Working against Akira Maeda, the same guy that tried to shoot on Andre the Giant.
Maeda, I got it in my book too. It's a story about that too. I got on a plane in LA. I flew from Nashville to LA, then got on a plane about an hour later for that long ass flight to Tokyo. God, it's about 9 hours, maybe more. You ever made it?
I've been. It took me 16 and a half.
Well, I left Nashville, it's like a 4-hour flight to LA. Get on the flight, I'm going to say it's 14 hours on a plane that day.
Yeah.
And so we left about 3:00 in the afternoon, and we chased the sun. So we were going west. We chased the sun all across the Pacific. So it didn't get dark. And when we landed, it wasn't dark. And to my understanding, we were supposed to land and go to the hotel and start work the next day. But no, that wasn't the plan. The plan was to land and go right to the TV, where were they doing the TV. Well, the time it landed, after 14 or 15 hours on the plane, hell, I'm exhausted. And then they put you on this van. And I don't know how many people in Tokyo, 30 million something, or in that area. We drove for like 2 hours through the city. And we got to this building, wherever it was. And we were going to work that night and do TV. So now it's 16 hours a day. So then I go in there and wait for my match with Maeda. And I was on last. And he was going to beat me with a spinning heel kick. I went in that ring and I was dragging. God, I was tired. It's almost like it was going on 20 hours, 21 hours by the time I got in that ring. And man, and you know, the people in Japan are different. They don't scream and holler and carry on. They will get excited on a comeback, but then they'll sit down. And then you see a punch, wow, they'll do that. Wow. But between, they wouldn't do anything. So at the end, he's making this big comeback on me, and he sent me into the ropes for a spinning heel kick. Well, and it's a part of it's almost a shoot group too, they told me later. I learned that later, about 4 days, much too late to do me any good. But he caught me and he knocked me completely out. His heel caught me right here. Down I went, 1, 2, 3, that I don't remember. And when I finally come back, I still laying flat. I looked up and there he's getting his hand raised. But I was knocked silly. So then I would, and that's the only time I work with Maeda, just on TV. And the rest of the time I would work with some of their other guys, stiffer than I could have an easier match with a 2x4. Really. It was like I was in a fight every night, but didn't know it. I just thought they couldn't work. Finally, I told a guy with me on the tour, I said, damn, these guys stiffer than hell. They can't work worth a shit. He said, what? I said, they can't work. He says, no, it's a half shoot group. I went, what? They didn't tell me that. Because, see, a lot of people don't know this about Japan, but the mafia has a hold of it deep. So you go out there and your match looks kind of fakey. They don't like that. So I would see guys walking around and he'd be missing a half a finger. I went, damn. Then another guy come in, he's missing half a finger. I went, the hell these guys do? Are they using saws or what? So I asked somebody, and they would always wear the same suit, always a black suit, black tie, white shirt, and dark sunglasses. I mean, that's their uniform. So I asked a guy, I says, why are these guys missing fingers? He said, because they're fuck ups. I said, what do you mean fuck ups? He said, they messed up and they punish them by cutting a half a finger off. So I says, if you see a guy with no fingers, then he's a real fuck up. He said, exactly. But man, it was tough over there with those guys. I mean, the last night we was in Budokan Hall, I guess. Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
The big arena. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they speak half English, sometimes they don't, which was another drawback. The guy said, just you. It's like playing charades, almost. You beat me up, and you beat me up. That's all he said. You beat me up for 10 minutes. So I beat him up for 10 minutes, and he said, hold up. You know, I'd get bits and pieces of it. And then I've been in easier fights than some of those matches over there with those guys. And when they would hit you, you better cover up because they're gonna knock you out. So I'm covering up, I'm ducking and dodging. And when the match is over, I said, thank God I'm out. They were just, and then you go back to the dressing room after the guy has beaten the living shit out of you, and you've beaten the crap out of him, except you didn't hit him in the face and his nose. You know, you'd hit him as hard as you could, and he'd go, Sicko, thank you very much. And they do all this. I says, I didn't get it. A very unique, different environment, nice as they could be, but I didn't want to meet none of those guys that cut those fingers off. I tried to stay away from them.
Sabu once told me that, because I've interviewed him a couple of times, and he said one person actually had most of his fingers cut off. He looked like he was doing like the hang loose sign constantly.
Yeah, I must have saw the same guy because he had no fingers. And that's just, and I found out later, that's how they sell out these small towns. See, the mafia sells them to businesses. The mafia goes in, and what they're saying in English, listen, we got these 50 tickets we'd like you to sell. And they sell them to the businesses for, say, $10. And the business sells them for 15 or something. And very few businesses decline to take them because it's in their benefit to take these tickets. And so these businesses push these tickets. And that's why when you show up in some little bitty town way back in the mountains that it took you 4 hours to get to on a bus, that's why you see 3,000 people sitting in there. And they will wait. I just thought that they just love wrestling so much that it automatically sells out. No, some of those people are kind of coerced into going to those matches. And no chairs. They have no chairs there at all. They all sit on the floor. They bring a mat and they sit down. And when you go out, everybody's sitting down and nobody's in chairs or nothing. It's really a different environment. It really is.
Yeah, a fascinating environment as well as someone going there for the first time and knowing really smart and short to what to expect. We've probably got time for just one more. I've got 3 in front of me. I'll give you the topics. Iron Sheik, Eddie Gilbert, or Sherry Martel. Which question would you like?
Let's go Iron Sheik.
Okay, Red Wiggler. Any Iron Sheik stories?
All right. I was in WCW and I hooked up with Sid Vicious, which I actually gave Sid the name. His real name is Sid Udi. And they wanted a name for him. And I had been reading about what was that group in
Sex Pistols?
Sex Pistols. I was reading about them, and one of them was named Sid Vicious, right? So I said, hey, call him Sid Vicious, because I had just been reading about that. And I gave something that maybe the guy won't give a crap. I didn't even think about that. So that's what we named him, Sid Vicious, and he liked it, and he kept it his whole career. So I'm riding with him. So, and then he come up and said, oh yeah, we're making the loop. And the loop, we worked 7 days a week at the time. And I was doing commentary in Atlanta with Tony Schiavone on, I think, Worldwide, the show. So I had to be in Atlanta every week to do the commentary. So, and I got with Sid because he had to do the same thing, except he worked, he wrestled. And so I got with him, and we would leave Atlanta Airport on Tuesday morning. And then we start out on the loop, wherever we started. And he'd rent a car. And he told me about the first week, he said, the Sheik is getting in with us. And I went, okay, Sheik got in with us. And the Sheik, I got along with everybody. Sheik was okay. So we got to Knoxville, and I went about 30 days with this. Finally, we got to Knoxville on a Saturday night, and the University of Tennessee had just played a football game. That's back when they kind of had a good team, and they would sell out. 105,000 people would descend on that stadium. So all the hotels were booked up. So we worked Knoxville. I mean, the game was the next day. We was there on Friday night. So the next day, I mean, we tried, after the match, we tried to go find a hotel, booked. We finally found a hotel I call affectionately now the Motel 4. It's actually not as good as a Motel 6 because it didn't have a phone. It only had a black and white TV. It was a flop. That was the only place we could get a room, and it was like $100. Ordinarily, they'd be $15. But since it was selling out, that all the rooms were taken, $100. So I'm in a room and I'm thinking, God, I hate this place. We only had to stay in there about, I don't know, to 7 o'clock the next morning. But it was about 11 o'clock at night. I didn't want to stay. And the Sheik says, I know, so vicious. Let's go have a drink. And Sid said, well, what do you want to do? And I wanted to actually get out of the room. So I go out to the car, and we were going to go to a bar. So we go to a bar, and by this time it's like 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock. Because we drove around an hour looking for the room. So we find this place. It was an after hours club. I didn't know that. And it had a gravel driveway and a gravel parking lot. Always be leery of gravel parking lots because something's up. So we pull in there and they had a guy parking the cars, something. And some girl was talking to this guy in a car and we can't get in and said, beep. He blew his horn, kind of rudely, I might add. And the next thing we see coming out the window is the guy did this. Sheik saw it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Mark, he disrespected Sid. Sid, what are you going to do? And now he put Sid on the spot. Sid walked up there and said, hey, man, what are you doing? Hey, F you. And then Sid popped him. Well, the guy took off. Now, all the bouncers know us. And the guy said, hey, park right here. Park right here. Up close to the door. So we parked there because they knew Sid, knew me, and they knew the Iron Sheik. We parked, go in there. Place is packed because, it's bring your own booze. So we brought something in there. I forgot what it was, but I wasn't drinking. Sid wasn't either. Only the Sheik was drinking. So Sheik, Sid takes off and was circling. And I see the Sheik, he grabs this woman. She comes in, she said, oh, you're the Iron Sheik. Oh, yes. And he pushes her up on the bar. And he's playing with her and he got her nipples out. And he's kissing all over her nipples and all out in front of everybody. And some guy walks by and he said, oh, Iron Sheik, I'm a huge fan, Iron Sheik. Can I talk to you? And he interrupted the Iron Sheik, what he was doing. And Sheik walked out of there and he open hand slapped this guy. He looked like Chernobyl. His voice going, and there was a cop standing there and he said, did you see this? Did you see that? And the cop saw it. Cop walked away. So finally the guy took off. And finally, Sid come around and the guy come up and he said, Dutch, you better get Sheik and sit out here. The guy, he's gone to get his friends. And he says, they're not the most nicest people in the world. I said, well, let's go. So we walked outside and guess what we found? The whole back windshield of Sid's rented town car shattered. Because the guy he punched going in, come back, and he busted the windshield and told the bouncer, tell him that's for me. He'll know what it's for. And the guy left. So I left, got in the front seat. Sid got in the front seat. These glass shards all over the place. Of course, the glass shards are all in the back seat where Iron Sheik, and he took the girl with him. And they're sitting back there and they go, ooh, 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 and we went home. I said, that is the last time I make the loop with the Sheik. That was enough for me. So, and we stayed on the road. That was 30 days in. I stayed on the road that time, 62 or 64 straight days before I went home.
There's one thing I've got to ask. Did Sid get the insurance?
I don't know. But he wouldn't get the insurance anyway because it's a rental car. They would just fix the car. See what I mean?
Yeah. Little charge.
So
like
are you
10
saying
times.
are you saying that Sid was involved with some shady dealings? I always heard that about him. But he was a softball player, he loved softball.
Mm-hmm.
So he hated wrestling in the summer because it took him away from his softball. So, but Sid Sid, I always got along with him. Good guy.
I'd love for him to come on the show sometime. Or any show. Yeah.
You ever talk to him?
I've never talked to him. I'll tell you what, right? I actually tried to reach out to him the week after he had absconded from another podcast he was doing. He just disappeared.
Yeah.
Which apparently Sid has got a habit of just disappearing sometimes or not showing up.
He'll do that.
Yeah. So ultimately the answer is no, I've never spoke to him, but I would really like to.
You want me to call him?
Yeah.
For you?
Yeah, we should do. We should do one time. I mean,
he still got the same. He still got the same number, but he'd love to do the show. I'm sure.
Well, there you go.
He hadn't done anything lately. I don't know what he's doing now, but when he broke his leg,
yes,
he got several $1 million out of that.
Really?
Remember that?
Yeah. Do you know what it was? He was coming off the top rope, and he ended up landing on one leg doing an axe handle, didn't he?
Whatever he was doing, he told him he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
According to him, and I believe that. And it bent like almost perpendicular to the leg. It was bad. I can't even watch it.
No, I can't.
And I don't know how they pieced him back together. So whatever he sued for, I think he got, I've heard stories, I think he got $5 million. That's a lot of money.
It's crazy.
And that was back in, what year was it? In the 90s, right?
2001 that happened. I think it was in January.
And okay. Where was he with WCW?
Yes. It was live on pay-per-view as well, I believe.
But okay, from WCW, did he go to WWF? Or he was WWF first?
No, he was WW. Well, hang on. I mean, the timeline is something like WCW, WWF, WCW, WWF, WCW, and then the leg thing happens.
Oh, okay. Well, it was, Undertaker, he went to WCW first, and he was taking the place of Sid. Sid was teamed up with Spivey as the Skyscrapers or something. And I think Sid got hurt. And I remember Cornette called me and he says, do you have, when I was working in Tennessee, booking Tennessee. And he says, do you have any guy that could fit this role? And Mark just happened to be sitting there. We were getting ready to leave on a trip. And I said, exactly, I do. I said, the guy's 6'10", 6'11", a great athlete, great attitude. I think he would fit it perfectly. And I put him on the phone to Jimmy. And this was like a Thursday. And he started there Monday. So I said, you start immediately. So, because I always liked Mark. And even when he was in WCW, then I went there. And he told me one day, I was in Atlanta. I went by the pool. He was sitting out there. And he told me that he had talked to, should he talk to WWF? And I said, I would stay here a little bit longer and let Vince get or maybe I told him before he went to WCW, I told him to go to WCW first. Let Vince see you and let him be the one who wants you. Instead of you making a call, let him call you. And that's what actually ended up happening. And then he went up there. And the Undertaker gimmick, because Vince had time to think about it, actually molded the Undertaker into Vince's vision of himself. And I've heard that a lot of places, because it's a guy who won't die, who can't die, he's immortal.
He can't be fired from WWE.
No, he can't be fired. We'll see how that turns out, because that's his attitude. And he has a fighting attitude, and he'll have the best lawyers money can buy. So I hope it's almost, for him to leave, it'd almost say that they got an airtight case. So
for the next show, I will do the closing, we'll do the plugs, but for the next show, I've wanted to do a commentary sort of thing on maybe some of the most memorable, maybe for the wrong reasons, matches. And there's one that I would love to have your commentary on. And it's Sid Vicious. It's the Skyscrapers, the Sid Vicious and Danny Spivey version, I think, versus two enhancement guys, and one of them refuses to stay down. And it just goes into a fight almost immediately. So maybe for another episode we can watch that and get your live commentary or live play-by-play.
I think I saw this. Spivey beats the crap out of him, doesn't
he? Yes.
I mean, and I don't know what's wrong with these guys. And the guy got up, did this one time. I remember I saw that, I think, and they wanted to kill him. Now, who was this? It was Sid and the guy, right?
I think it was Danny Spivey and Sid versus just two nobodies.
Oh my God! And I think they got him in the dressing room too. I think they went to the back and beat the crap out of him there too, because they were pissed off. You know, here the guys
sandbagging.
Well, that's what sandbagging gets you. It can get you a butt whooping in the ring, a public butt whooping, and then you get the private consultation at no extra charge, I might add. You get the private conversation in the back. Now, I remember, and this is the days, you know, when fans would get involved and he would hit a wrestler and they would take the fan out through the door, seemingly to the back. Well, they took him to the back, all right. A lot of those cops took them back and brought the wrestlers in, which I never really thought that was because the guy can't fight back. You know, he's outnumbered. The cops are there, and for them, the guy just the wail on the guy. I never really liked that. But the guy shouldn't have got up and hit people. But I think them taking advantage of him in the back where he couldn't do anything. I never really bought into that formula.
No, well, I'll tell you what, for a future episode, we'll do a live play-by-play for that. But for now, we'll do the plugs. Tales from a Dirt Road on Amazon.
Yep.
The World According to Dutch from Amazon. Owen Hart, King of Pranks on Amazon. And Dwayne The Rock Johnson, the People's Champion on Amazon. All very, very well-regarded books by the reviewers of Amazon. And they're available at all good Amazons everywhere.
You know what I'm going to send you?
Go on.
I'm going to send you my diploma from my university. The University of Dutch, and I award a diploma with the stamp on it and everything, signed by the university president, that's Dutch Mantell, and the dean of academics, that's Zeb Colter. I sign them both, and your name is prominently in the middle, and you can hang it anywhere in your house. University of Dutch.
I'll tell you what,
I sell them. I can sell them for $30, and I make them and everything with your name on them. And when I get my website up and running, you can read about it there. I want you to send me your address, and I'm going to send it to you.
I've got a space right on the wall behind me as well, so it'll go right under the YouTube award.
It'd be great.
Right, so
because you'll be the only one in all of the UK with the University of Dutch diploma hanging on your wall.
Absolutely, and everyone will get to see it.
That's quite an achievement, you know. Not everybody has that.
But I look forward to filling in that. I've actually been looking for something to fill that one space on the wall behind me as well, so that'll absolutely work perfectly. But for now, plugs out the way. You can find Dutch on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You know how to do it. You can't find me very easily because I don't give my information out that easily. But for now, thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you again next week, and thank you, Dutch, for entertaining us once again.
Thank you.